Hello, hello. How's everybody? I'm Emmy Grimes. I am an advisor here at Senergy Medical Group. We are live here on our last Facebook live stream of the year. Can you believe it? What a year it's been. We have the amazing Scott Justin with us too today. He is going to be talking about some great topics, I think, to close out the year with our immune system, how to keep us healthy, if we had the virus, tips what we can do to recharge those battery packs again. So I'm excited, guys. It's going to be a great topic. But introduce yourself. Tell us who you are so our audience can know more about you.
Sure. Well, thank you for the introduction, Emmy. I certainly appreciate that. So for those of you that don't know me, my name is Scott Justin. I'm the Director of Product Development for Tennant Products. Tennant Products actually makes and manufactures all of the supplement and nutritional products, the nutraceuticals for Senergy Medical Group and Dr. Tennant. And so I'm here today to talk a little bit about the nutritional perspective on, there's a whole lot of talk about immunity. How do we actually boost our immune system? How do we improve our immune system? How do we support our bodies so that we can continue to maintain healthy lifestyles? And so I've learned quite a bit from my personal story with that. And then I've learned a crazy amount diving into the nutraceuticals, the nutritional world, and trying to figure out exactly what we have and why we do that and how our bodies work. So I'm grateful for the time to be here and look forward to our conversation today.
That is awesome, Scott. Thank you so much for that intro. I'm looking forward to it as well. Let's just kick it off. Let's start with the first question that I had on my list today. What is the best step for boosting our immune system?
Yeah, so there's a lot of talk right now about boosting your immune system, right? What's the one magic pill that I can take that can actually boost my immune system, right? Is it max dosing vitamin C? Is it high levels of vitamin D3? Is it zinc? Is it some combination of those? Is it making sure that we manage our microbiome and maintain a healthy gut? Studies have all shown that about 70% of our immune system comes from our gut, right? So from the digestive tract. And so the answer to all of those things is that our bodies are complex, and there isn't one magic pill that's going to help support you and help give you the additional immune boost, right? So when we're looking at cold season, we're looking at flu season, and we're looking at how to try and limit the exposures that we have. I mean, the standard things for hand washing, right? Making sure that you maintain your distance and that you're not touching your face, and all of those things come into play. But when we think about what we're actually, what our bodies need, there is a lot of truth to the vitamin D. There is a lot of truth to the vitamin C, and there is a lot of truth to the zinc. And so I'd like to just kind of get into those a little bit. And what I would say is that our body actually needs a combination of all of those rather than max dosing on each one. But our bodies are designed to use each one of those things separately and then together collectively to help support our immune systems. So vitamin D is absolutely critical, right? So we know that we get vitamin D. One of the best sources is from the sun, right? And then our skin actually absorbs the vitamin D, turns it in, actually brings that in. The skin converts the UVB, right? The vitamin D to cholecalciferol. Then the liver actually converts the cholecalciferol to vitamin D in the bloodstream. Then that sends it to the kidneys. And then the kidneys actually convert that to an active form of D3, which then goes to the lungs, the bones, and the organs. And we know when we're trying to fight off specific viruses, or if we're trying to fight off specific things, we want to make sure that we have a healthy circulatory system and healthy lungs. And so we want to make sure that we do that. The other thing that's unique about vitamin D3 is that there is a vitamin D3 receptor in the nucleus of almost every cell in the body. So if we don't have enough levels of vitamin D3, then it's going to be difficult for those cells to actually perform. The other thing that's gotten a lot of hype lately is zinc, right? Well, we know that if you have zinc deficiency, right, zinc deficiency can depress the immune system. And one of the things that zinc does really, really well is help fight the viral load. So there's a thing called the natural killer cells. You actually need appropriate levels of zinc in your system for that to happen. But on a different level, we need stomach acid to be able to fight bacterial and kill enzymes, and help take care of the antimicrobial. The stomach acid is actually supposed to be able to help with that. And zinc is one of the things that we actually need for stomach acid. So we need to make sure that we have an appropriate gut. We need to make sure that we have healthy stomach acid, and we also need to make sure that we have all of the nutrients that we need, right? We've talked a lot about vitamin C2. Well, or vitamin C, not C2, but vitamin C as well. And vitamin C is a great antioxidant. It's water soluble, so our bodies actually need to use it more often. It can't store it like it can vitamin D or vitamin A or K. And when we get sick, we need more of that. So our body uses vitamin C to help neutralize some of the viruses that actually come in. And when our bodies get sick, then our white blood cells, or if we have an infection or something else is happening in the body, then the vitamin C actually gets pulled in by the white blood cells, and our body actually needs more of that. And as we've talked about, and several of the doctors that we've worked with have talked about, we're not able to quite get the same nutrition that we need to get the same levels of those vitamins, nutrients, and supplements. And so we often have to supplement those. So when we take a look at, vitamin D3 and zinc and vitamin C, all of those have shown great benefit across the board, but we need to make sure that we're looking at the whole picture because they all work in conjunction with one another.
That's huge. Oh, that's awesome. Well, thank you, because I think it's so important with where we are today, and just trying to keep our bodies healthy, that this is a huge, you bring up a good point. I mean, our immune system starts with our gut, and you've got to reset that gut to get back to where you need to be. So let's move on to the next question that I have. Can I just use the supplements that I have on my shelf? Will that suffice?
That's a great question, right? And the question is, what do you have on your shelf?
Yeah. Right.
So we at Tennant Products, we talk about product education, and we want you to know what's on your label. And when you're actually reading the label of a product, right, and you actually pick up a label and you're looking at this, and then you're actually looking at the ingredients on the label, you want to make sure that you know exactly what type of vitamin B is actually in there, what type of vitamin C is in there. Is it ascorbic acid or is it a whole vitamin C, right? Studies have shown that if you're using whole vitamin C, right, it's not just ascorbic acid in order to be effective. We actually need the whole piece of the pie, right? So we need a non-GMO ascorbic acid, which we know will actually work really well with our bodies. And then we also need the polyphenols, the bioflavonoids, and all of the other factors that support that, rather than just taking ascorbic acid, so that our bodies can actually function. So when you're taking a look at your supplements and what you might have on the shelf, take a look at the supplemental facts and try and figure out, okay, well, is this a natural ingredient? Is this a synthetic? Can I actually process it? Is it in the amount that we actually need? And in light of that education, we actually came up with a document that we touched on and actually did a Facebook Live thing here on the 6 myths. And
yes.
So
we're going to put that in the link over here too, for you guys to access it if you want to refer to it. Yeah.
And so that actually tackles the specific question, can I buy any supplements that I want? Will that actually work for me? Are supplements from GNC and Amazon and Costco the same as, the high quality nutraceuticals we can find elsewhere? And can I, how do I actually read a label? Right? So I would say, you want to make sure that you are doing everything that you can to help support your immune system. And a lot of folks think, well, hey, if I just take my multivitamin, right, that's going to have some, that's better than nothing. Right. And I would say that it certainly may be, but we need to figure out what form that's actually in.
Right. And it's just, like you said, it's about educating yourself so that you know that this is doing the right things for your body. And it's, and I think it also contributes to how you're feeling in the process. If you don't feel right, I mean, we need to either take a step back or adjust things so that your body can acclimate and make sure it's a productive, as well.
Right.
So, thank you.
I would also say,
go ahead.
I don't want to interrupt, but
Oh, you're good.
I would also say that it depends on what you're trying to do, right? We talked about the microbiome. So are you trying to target a multivitamin? Are you trying to support your microbiome? Are you trying to heal something that's happening with your gut? Are you trying to detox? What are you trying to do with that specific supplement that you have on your shelf?
That's right.
And then, you can use that tool in the Six Myth to be able to figure out, well, will this actually work for me? Is it in the right form? And obviously, if you don't know, then reach out to the healthcare practitioner, and they'll be able to guide you in the right direction.
Good point. Thank you. That's awesome. Now, here's the kicker. If I've had the virus and trying to get my body back to normal, what should we do for those scenarios?
So I would say that if you've had a virus, then, there are a lot of things that actually come from that, right? So we're talking about fatigue, shortness of breath, cough, joint pain, chest pain, any of those things that we would associate with the common cold or with the common flu. And what's happened is that your body has just been through a battle, right? And so it has been on this crazy fight. And what we found is when the body is actually being attacked, then it needs to figure out how to regroup. And so several years ago, I ended up with several really nasty viruses, and they ended up taking me out. And what happened was that I ended up getting on a specific detox protocol where they said, okay, well, what we really need to do is we need to clear out those cells. And so you have a whole bunch of damaged cells and a bunch of stuff that's happening in your body. And what we need to do is figure out how we can actually clear that out, reset, level the playing field, and then rebuild with appropriate nutrition, right? And so I thought, okay, well, let's see how exactly does that work, right? And I said, well, okay, well, you need phospholipids and amino acids, and started going down the list. And I'm like, this is overwhelming. Like, I don't really know how to start with this. And they said, okay, well, let's start with a nutritional shake. We'll get you on that. That'll give you the baselines in the right form. We'll start that foundational nutrition, and then we can work on the modifiable lifestyle factors outside of that. So the things that help regulate your life, right? So what does your sleep hygiene look like? What does your stress look like? How are you actually managing the stress load? What does your exercise look like? Are you doing, specific endurance exercise, or are you actually working on strength training to help balance the hormone loads? So there are quite a few resources that you can actually do and reach out, and you can reach out and get a health coach, and they can actually walk you through how to help balance some of those modifiable lifestyle factors. But what I really found works well is that you need something that's going to take all of the nutritional value and give you that foundational baseline, right? So when we talk about, in the Senergy course, when we talk about, and Dr. Tennant talks about building that new foundation, right? Our body doesn't actually use the damaged cells. It actually, creates new healthy cells. And so if we're going to create new healthy cells, then we need everything that we need to be able to build those cells, right? So we need phospholipids and amino acids for the outside and inside of the cells. We need the vitamins and minerals for the actual metabolic processes. We need something that's actually going to detox and get rid of those systems, the things that aren't supposed to be in there. And then we need some protein to be able to help rebuild muscles. So there is a complex formula that each cell needs. And so we can have all of these things in one formula, right? And we have that in our Restore formula, but then you also need the energy to be able to do that. So if you're going to build a house, and let's just say that you've just been taken out and the house has been taken out with a tornado. So everything is leveled. That's kind of where our bodies are after we've gone through a virus. And so now you have to figure out, okay, well, how is this going to work, right? Well, let's see here. So first we need to clean up the space so that we have an area where we can actually build the foundation. And then we need to set the foundation, right? So that would be all of the nutrition that goes along with that. And then you need, right, you need the building blocks to help rebuild the house, right? So you need the boards, the roof, the doorknobs, the shingles, and you need to be able to have those sitting around but then somebody has to have the energy to do that, right? And that's where the energy or the voltage comes into play, and that's where Senergy, and Emmy, you can talk about that.
Yes, I mean, that's a great intro to our next.
So,
no, you're right. I'm sorry. I didn't mean to interrupt you, Scott. No, you're absolutely right. And it brings us to the next point of, utilizing the supplements. Is it enough to reset our body? I mean, is it enough to give us that the everything that it needs? And so I think that you hit on home plate there with what you were just saying, is that your body does need additional tools. And this is what we teach at the conference as well, as you know, too, Scott, that, your body needs, and Dr. Tennant has been teaching us since day one, that it needs nutrition, detoxing, and voltage. Voltage is a key component in this. And it's not just one, it's a balance of everything. And I love what you're saying, to build a house, you need that foundation. So that's where the nutrition comes into play. But you've got to add these other pieces to it to allow us to heal. And so I think that it's very important that, you guys that are out there, that if you're listening and you don't own the equipment yet, this is another component that we teach you about and give you guidance and support, that this is necessary in the road to healing, as well as preventative too. And, I'm in a preventative state. I know Scott is too, but, it takes time to get to that point, and you need to get your body's voltage back up so that energy can go through our systems and start rebuilding, restoring, and living our best life, right?
Exactly. One thing that's interesting is that when I was actually going through my health process, I didn't have access to the specific devices. And so I didn't have the biomodulator, the transducer, biotransducer. The only thing that I had was access to nutrition, right? So I was using nutritional stuff, and I was focusing on trying to eat as healthy as possible. But we know that the foods that we're eating aren't, even if they're organic, aren't as nutritious as they had been.
So true.
So when the focus had been on resetting the gut and then making sure that we get those micro and trace nutrients into the body, so that's going to help both clear it out and provide what our cells actually need to create new healthy cells. And then we layer on the additional, the additional foundation, right? Where we're going to have, as Dr. Sennett says, everything that the cells need to create new healthy cells. And when we lay those on, when I actually came into the clinic and got my voltage tested, it was significantly higher than I expected. And that was simply because we were using the appropriate nutrition. So I think if you have the right tools and you're focused on detoxing, supporting yourself with appropriate nutrition, and you're limiting the amount of things you can put into your body, which will increase the inflammation and increase the systemic response that your body is actually going to have when it actually gets presented with a bacteria or with a virus, then you're going to be in a much better state.
Totally. I mean, it's a process, but we're here every step of the way to guide you through that. And like you mentioned, if you had that equipment, think about the time frame that it would have, taken away, that, you would have accelerated that healing process. So
Sure.
Having the right tools totally can make that difference. And so it's good to be asking these questions. You have a choice to make. This is your one and only body that we have here on this earth. So why not give it the right tools and provide it the support it needs to stay healthy, stay out of that danger zone that we do not want to get into, and live that best life. So thank you, Scott. Do you have any other things that you want to mention before we close out today?
Yeah, I think so. The whole point is that there isn't a magic pill or there isn't a magic solution, right? That we can give that'll put up a shield that'll create this barrier to help protect us against viral loads. But there is quite a bit that we can actually do to prevent that. And I was talking with Dr. Nathan Bryan a couple of days ago, and we were talking about nitric oxide and how that actually plays a role. And he said, the focus is that it's so much easier to prevent disease than it is to treat it. And that's so true, right? And his whole point was that, hey, look, we need to help manage our our cardiovascular system and our pulmonary systems. And that's kind of what all of these different vitamins and supplements point to, right? So Dr. Bryan's take is that nitric oxide is key to all of these things. And nitric oxide does actually control and regulate the blood flow through all of the organs, right? It helps protect the endothelial barrier, the inside lining of our veins. But one thing that stuck with me is that it also controls the oxygen delivery in the bloodstream.
And what does Dr. Tennant say about that too?
Right. Exactly.
When your voltage drops, your oxygen drops, right?
Right. And so if we want to make sure that we have vascularized tissue, because we know that vascularized tissue actually handles better immune response and immune function, right? So we have oxygen, we have everything that we actually need in the bloodstream to get to those cells and get to that area that might be affected, then we're going to be in a much better state. And so totally. Nitric oxide is one of those things that isn't talked about when we start talking about vitamin D, vitamin C, supporting your microbiome. But I believe that it's absolutely critical in order to be able to maintain a healthy immune system and really feel your best. And so when we're talking about empowering you to make the best decisions and empowering you to support yourself so that you can live your best life, whether you're trying to prevent something or not, right? We want to make sure that we're talking about the role of nitric oxide and what that plays, right? And so whether we're talking about Neo 40 or a topical nitric oxide serum like Numa, all of those can actually be incredibly beneficial.
Totally. And it's a part of our core 5, for those of you out there that don't know what this is Neo 40 actually, that I love the supplement, and it's a lozenge. So you just put it on your tongue, in the morning when you wake up before you brush your teeth. And obviously everyone varies on this. So if you have questions on regimens, you can always reach out to us at Senergy for that. But really cool what this can provide you, and just giving you, that oxygen, and providing circulation as well. So I think that's fantastic. It's a good point to make too. Thank you very much, Scott.
Yeah. And thank you for that.
Yeah. Well, I want to double check and make sure. We do have a question that just popped up that I want to address if we have time. Hi, how do I balance immune system? This is a good question, Tasha. How would you answer that, Scott?
I think it really depends on where you are with your immune system. Is there something else that's happening? Do you have an autoimmune thing that's going on? Are you trying to protect yourself from a virus, or are you actually in a preventative state? So I think the question is, what state are you in? And then what parts are you actually missing from your diet, right? Do you have the appropriate energy so that the cells can actually function? Do you have the appropriate levels of, D3 and K2 and iodine and zinc so that your body can actually do that, right? What are the levels of nitric oxide? So I would say if you're going to balance things and you want to make sure that you have the best leg up, you want to make sure that your body is topped off with all of the appropriate nutrition so that you have those building blocks, and then it can help give you the energy so that you can actually fight off whatever you need to do.
Great. That's awesome. Well, thank you.